I see it here, surgeon. My second.
Surgeon.
Well, this would be.
Yes, sir.
All right. It is 6 o'clock. We're going to go. We will go ahead and call our meeting to order. This is City Council business meeting for Thursday, March 3rd, 2022. It is 6 p.m. Lindsay, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Lester.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Reva. Here. Cool.
Here.
Livingston. Here. Mayor Tom Phillips.
I am here as well. We have quorum, so we will move on. Item number 2 is pledge of allegiance. Would you please rise? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the consent agenda items to the regular agenda? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion. Second.
Okay, a motion by Livingston, seconded by Reva. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4 is welcome guests and public comment. Thank you for being here tonight and participating in our meeting. Time we've opened up dais. Anybody wants to address council for non-agenda items? We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. Can't take action on these tonight because they're not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. So anybody like to address council? Seeing none, we will move on. Item number 5 is our consent agenda. On the consent agenda, we have February 17th, 2022 minutes of the regular city council meeting, our expenditures, tax abatements. We have a resolution approving HR director job description and promotion of Carrie Keat to HR director. We have a resolution approving updated City of Norwalk organizational chart. A resolution approving seasonal part-time office assistant job description. We have a resolution to approve pay estimate number 6 to the Herberger construction for construction of the Great Western Trail Project Phase 2 project. We have a resolution ordering construction of certain public improvements, Great Western Trail Connection Project Phase 3, approving preliminary plans and fixing a date for hearing thereon and taking of bids therefor. We have a resolution approving payment to De Novo Construction Services. We have a resolution adopting revisions to the City of Norwalk credit card policy, and we have correspondence. Can I get a motion?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Reva. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Baker.
Yes.
Reva.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item 6 is old business, old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is public hearing vacating Old State Highway 28 right-of-way. So we will open up public hearing at 6:03 p.m. We're going to vacate our final portion of Old Highway 28 that is just north of Echo Valley Drive, and it's the west 2 lanes that are still up there. Luke or Jim, would you present this to council?
Like I said, north of the Echo Valley Drive, there's a small strip of old Highway 28. We are vacating it. Technically, it hasn't been used, been blocked off for a number of years. When they relocated Highway 28 years ago, that ground was ceded to the city by the DOT. There are easements in there that will preserve, but the neighboring property owner has requested that we vacate it and convey it to them. This action right now is just vacating the half of that road. As far as conveyance, we're gonna get some input from the council, trying to decide if we can't just give it to the neighboring property owner. And it's Road Contractors Inc. Just like with any other item, the city cannot give away something of value for free just because. So, there were other easements south of there that the city previously conveyed to the neighboring property owners, but there was a lot of survey work and having to file plats and stuff to divide that up. So that time, a few years back, we just conveyed it based upon them paying all the expenses, and then we conveyed it to them. Now this one, there's associated expenses, so you're going to be asked that question at some point in time. Don't necessarily expect an answer tonight. We're not asking for an answer tonight. We'll give you more information as time comes, but we just wanted to start this process because Road Contractors has asked us to start it. So this is kind of the start of the process.
Mayor, if I could add a couple
Sure.
things. First of all, I believe that Mr. Shires is here if he may have something to say on behalf of road contractors. I will also pass along that I spoke with Steve Gelati, and he explained that he realizes that the vacation, actual execution of the vacation of this property is part of a bigger picture that comes into play with the parcels both east and west of Highway 28 and the overall development of that area. So he understands that we're just taking that initial step.
Could I ask for clarification? So there's a lot of red lines on this map. So exactly what is the portion that is, we are vacating? Just so I'm clear and anybody else who might look at it is clear.
See how well I can. Yes.
Thank you.
Roughly.
I'm gonna hold you to it.
Do we have any utilities that flow through that area?
There are some utilities.
Yes.
Okay, so is that water or?
I believe it's gas. I don't, Wayne, do you know what else is running through there?
Medam has gas and then the one Waterworks has a line there.
And part of this vacation, and one of the adding to that requirement is for you guys to have this hearing, we had to publish notice. It had to go up in Polk County. This is one of the few areas in Norwalk that's actually Polk County ground. So this is it's Polk County ground, and we had to provide notices to the utilities that we were doing this anyway. So also, so if they wanted to object, they had the opportunity to object to us vacating it.
Okay, and Jim, just further clarification, we're only vacating the west side of the northern portion of that Highway 28.
That is correct.
Okay,
Because we don't own the east side. Des Moines has the east side.
okay.
And by the way, we have contacted the city of Des Moines. We also contacted, Lindsay, did we get a hold of Capola? We also asked them about any interest that they might have before we move forward. So we did not have any objections from any of those other people.
Is there any plans for the south side?
South side's already been vacated.
All of it?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
The eastern half went to Capola and the western half went to July.
Okay, that's what I thought we did that a while back.
And as far as the size, I think the width of that, I believe, is like 30.
I don't think it said 150 feet. It just seemed like, I didn't know what the dimensions. I was just
I think
curious
north
how
of-
big it is.
I think east to west, I was thinking it was like 35 feet or something like that.
For which one?
The part that we're vacating,
There's no size. I
the
was just.
east to west width and the north to south width.
Isn't it 0.83 acres? Less than an acre.
Is, looks like it's closer to about 150 feet.
Oh, it's 100 feet, so it's 30 yards. Right up there. Yes.
I was just gonna say that we've got a decent way to price it because the state's already priced what we just bought that last little piece for. It's in the same, that is true, area, same type of ground. So I just think that pricing wise, we've already got an idea of what it's gonna cost.
They give you a little bit of a guide. It's not highway.
Perfect.
It's not highway frontage, of course, but
There's not a lot of traffic.
yeah.
So that's not the discussion today.
No, that's
I'm
not
just
the-
saying, I
that
think
is
that we've
correct.
already got that in there.
I just wanted to vacation. Yeah, I wanted to let you know that That will be a discussion on for you guys in the future.
So by today's is just vacating it.
That's right. Because it's,
So we still own it?
that's right. By vacating, that means it's not open to the public. It can't be used by the public. We're saying, okay, it's not a public way. And it seems kind of odd to do it since it's such a useless piece of ground. It's already blocked off, but
Who
just,
put the block, who put the gate up there though?
I think the city probably did.
Our city or Des
There
Moines City?
was one of the two.
Oh,
There were people parking stuff up there, so.
yeah. Right. So this just takes the formal legal step of vacating it. It's the same process we would have used when we did the old, was it Mastella Road, is that what we called it? Yeah, it's the same process that we did there, and the same process we would do if there's an alleyway or something like that.
Stephanie, did you get your questions? All right. Anything else? Yeah. Chris doesn't have. Lindsay, have we received any oral or written comments on it?
We have not.
Thank you. Do we have any other public comment on this item? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:10 PM. Item 6B is the first reading of an ordinance providing for the vacation of a portion of the road known as Old Highway 28 within the city of Norwalk. So we just heard about this item in the public hearing. Luke or Jed, do you have anything to add? No. Okay, any discussion or comments from council?
I don't see a lot of future for it as it sits right now.
All right, any other public comment? I have a motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
Okay, so a motion by Livingston, seconded by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Reva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6C, it's public hearing regarding the fiscal year 23 budget. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:11 PM. We've been reviewing the budget for the past 2 months. Staff have actually been working on this since the end of October. And despite what the Des Moines Register said, the budget has been published. All right. The Register said it hadn't, but it has, and it's been in our packets for months.
Hard to believe it.
Yeah. Well,
It
it's,
is.
do we publish it in the Des Moines Register?
We did.
Oh, okay. So they even published it, but they don't know that they
Well, we
published it.
published a notice for the public hearing.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Are you saying the Des Moines Register isn't fully accurate? I'm in shock.
It's hard to
Okay,
believe.
we better move on.
Yeah,
Gene,
definitely.
Gene, do you want to present this to council?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening. Budget presented before you is for next fiscal year, which is July 1, 2022 to June 30, 2023. It's developed based on the priorities and goals of the elected officials, staff, and citizen input. Highlights, this budget is 54.1 million, of which 5.4 million is transfers from various areas, mainly TIF and lost. TIF is a great tool. It helps reduce our debt service levy, and about 1.9 million of TIF will be transferred to the debt service for economic development and city TIF qualified projects. 8.6 million is our general fund. This helps pay for police and fire and administration and our basic departments. Special revenue, 6.1 million. This pays for city employees' health insurance and other benefits. TIP budget for economic development initiatives and city urban renewal projects, 5 million. Debt service is 4.6 million. Capital projects fund, 23.1 million. These are projects like Norwalk Central, Beardsley Highway 28, North Avenue and Highway 28, Holland Point Sewer Expansion, and other water and sewer projects. It's a large number. However, Norwalk is growing at a rapid rate. We are building and putting infrastructure in the ground as well as maintaining our current facilities. Finally, water, sewer, and stormwater is 6 million. These are enterprise funds. Revenues are estimated at 49.6 million. The $4.5 million difference from expenses to revenues is based on CIP projects not yet complete and funds already acquired with the 2021 bonds. Taxes including general fund, trust and agency, and TIF accounts. And the TIF fund account for approximately 14.9 million. Lost and other taxes, 1.9 million. License and permits and interest earnings, 800,000. Intergovernmental, including road use tax, 3.1 million. With the new census figures for road use, we're going to get an additional 300 to 360,000 a year. Charges for fees and services, 9.5 million. Debt proceeds, 13.3 million. Special assessments and other categories, 600,000. And finally, transfers of 5.4 million. Norwalk's total assessed value, including everything, increased $158 million. The city's taxable value grew 37.3 million in our general fund and 67 million in our debt service fund. So this is about 7.6% growth and 9% growth respectively in those two funds. The difference is TIF. As you know, debt service is exempt from TIF, so that's why it's always a little bit more. The city's TIF value is 215 million. This will generate 6.5 million to be used to offset debt service and pay for capital improvements. Important item to know is next year for fiscal year 2024, approximately 150 million of this will drop off. So good and bad. We need new value. So why we have economic development agreements on the table tonight. But we will get about 1.2 million more to our general fund. And the schools will probably get another million to theirs. So that'll be a boost for both. Norwalk has several significant developments in the works and will continue to thrive and grow for the next several years. We are decreasing our tax levy 3 cents from 15.14 to 15.11 per thousand. The rollback set by the state is also decreasing 2.3% from 56.4 to 54.1%. What this means is a home that maintains value, and I stress maintains value, of 325,000. This is what we have been using as an average, would pay approximately $116 less a year in city taxes. However, we do know housing values have increased. The assessor sets those values, some as much as 10%. So kind of did a break even and figured if a home's value increases 4% or less, they would see this decrease. I stress they would see this in city taxes. We do not have control over the other taxing entities, as you know, so schools, county, and other levies like DMAC, the cemetery, and the assessor's office also come into play. The city budget, and this includes taxes and fees for services, pays for police, fire, EMS, parks, recreation programs, libraries, the library, streets, sewer mains, water mains, stormwater facilities, building inspections, public programs, snow removal, street lighting, street cleaning, community planning and beautification, economic development programs, and administration to organize and maintain all these services. In addition to all these services just mentioned, Norwalk has major projects underway and are a part of this budget. These projects have been established based on the 2028 strategic vision plan established by the elected officials. I'll mention a few. Norwalk Central, 9.5 million. Street reconstruction and asphalt overlays and traffic signal projects, 8.5 million. This includes 1.4 million in grants from the DOT and the MPO. Trail connections, parks and library equipment and upgrades, 600,000. Public safety equipment, including police vehicles, fire equipment and gear, facilities improvements, 500,000. Sewer expansion projects to the north, a regional stormwater detention facility, and water main improvements on Wright Road and East 27th, 5.8 million. I will mention that the water main improvement for Wright Road and East 27th will be paid utilizing ARPA funds. 1.5 million is the estimate on that. That's just a rough estimate. We don't have an engineer's estimate on that. 50,000 to the Des Moines Airport for their new terminal. It's a $644 million project, and they've asked all the metro cities and counties to participate. I believe 99% of them have, maybe 100, but a lot of them. Our contribution will total 250,000, which is over 5 years. So we'll put in 50,000 each year for those 5 years. This also includes engineering studies for potential westward transportation expansion, as well as sewer expansions to the south and northeast. Norwalk new urbanism project to include a potential LMI component and land purchase for a new water tower, 1.7 million. The final thing I'll bring up is our fund balances. The city maintains reserves at a reasonable level to ensure money is available for contingencies and or unplanned expenses. It's also important to investors and a highly weighted factor when borrowing money and establishing a credit rating. We have a general fund policy of 30%, and this budget ensures that we meet that. Enterprise funds, there are several components, capital improvement projects, their current debt, and any operating costs. Those are all evaluated quarterly to make sure that we are meeting adequate coverages for each of those enterprise funds. A lot of work goes into the budget. I'd like to thank the elected officials, staff for working as a team to develop and prioritize projects and for being willing to remove or delay requests when asked. If you have any questions on any of the projects, there's a lot of documents tonight. I think there's well over 200 pages there. I know you have seen them. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer any of the staff, any individual projects.
Yes, I just have a comment that I wanted to thank you and the staff for being so diligent, working so hard on this budget. I realized we didn't have much going on in the city for this next year. But, no, but seriously, it's very impressive. It is, because, you know, I watched you work at it. And I know there was gnashing of teeth. I know there were things given up, you know, but I appreciate it. I appreciate the process, and I appreciate the fact that we're able to lower the tax rate to still accomplish those things we need to accomplish. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Lindsay, if we had any written comments on this?
We have not.
Have any other public comment on this? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:22 p.m. So item 6D is a resolution approving the fiscal year 23 budget. So we just had the public hearing on this item. Jean, do you got anything to add? All right, any discussion, comments, questions from council? Or public comment?
Motion.
All right. Got a motion by Cool, seconded by Reba. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6E is a resolution adopting the city of Norwalk budget transfers for fiscal years 22 and 23. So this is now a normal procedure for this time of year when approving the budget, specifies what monies are being transferred between different funds and why we're doing that transfer. Got anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. Any discussion, questions for council?
Motion.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Reba. Do we have any public comments? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6F. It's a public hearing to enter into a general obligation loan agreement allowing for debt service taxes to pay for fiscal year 23 capital improvements projects. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:24 p.m. Capital improvement plan is part of the budget, and the city enters into bond debt to pay for various improvements within the CIP. So we need to have public hearing prior to passing the resolution to take action. Jean, would you present this to council and also summarize some of the projects that are?
Sure.
I know you already went through quite a few, but.
Yes, so this is just part of the budget process as well. Anytime we know that we are going to issue debt or borrow money for capital improvement projects, we have to pass a resolution indicating how much that we're going to utilize for that. We have put 700,000 in there for principal and interest payments for the 2022 A bonds. Some of the projects, Highway 28 North Avenue, Colonial Parkway Regional Detention, and then our economic development initiatives are part of that.
Has we had any oral or written comments on this?
We have not.
Any public comment? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:25 PM. Item 6G, resolution taking additional action on proposal to enter into a loan agreement and providing for the levy of taxes to pay general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2022A. So we just had a public hearing. This is the item that's going to provide funding for the capital improvement projects. Anything to add?
Just that the levy will remain the same at it was 323 per thousand last year. It'll be the same. We had some debt drop off, so we can maintain that levy.
Awesome. Any questions, discussion from council? Any public comment? Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
That motion carries. Item 6H, public hearing on proposed development agreement with Sportsplex USA LC and Heartland Sports Properties LLC. We'll open up the public hearing at 6:26 PM. So the city, and more specifically Holly, has been working on this project for a couple of years now, and this is the final public hearing regarding the development agreement to get this project started. Holly, what do you got?
Right.
It's finally here.
Finally here.
This is Mike Mahoney. He is the co-owner of Sportsplex USA. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Just in case you have any questions for him as we run through this, but I can just touch on the main points of the development agreement if you would like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
With the developer obligations and the city obligations. So we've been working with Sportsplex for a couple of years now at this point, I think, before COVID hit. And they've been really great to work with. I'll just say that we had a couple of different groups that came forward from the beginning of time wanting to do some form of a sports campus in the city of Norwalk. And so finally, we just found the right team and the right group, and they have a good presence in the metro. So we felt very blessed and very comfortable working with them. So we're excited. With that being said, so the development agreement that we have in place right now with Sportsplex and with Heartland. So their obligations, the developer obligations will be to build a retail facility. We have a minimum of 20,000 square feet for that, but their building right now is at 35,000 square feet. Is that right? For the purpose of leasing to private commercial tenants that will provide goods and services to the public that are compatible with the sports and recreation campus. Of course, we want them to have the types of uses that make sense in there with recreation, fitness, health, nutrition, entertainment, eateries. So things for people to do and be active. So that's their goal there. The majority of their bays, that's what they'll be leasing to. Develop and manage approximately 14 acres of turf multi-sports fields, pedestrian walkways, sidewalks, parking lots, and lighting related to the turf fields and private sports retail buildings. They'll invest approximately 10 million into the project. They may exceed that with a future outlot development. They're also purchasing an outlet just to the east of their existing retail lot. So as they move forward with tenants and all of these people that have interest in building out there, they'll develop an additional facility that will add to that value, that investment. They will enter into a minimum assessment agreement with the city for 8 million. You might remember that started out much smaller. I think we were at 4 million initially. And then as the project grew and their building value grew and the turf value really grew, we jacked that up for them. So that's very positive. And then purchase approximately 20 acres from Diligent Development, which also allows additional future commercial development on the outlot that we just talked about. Agree to provide the city with sponsorship and naming rights services and concessions management services, with revenue shares being paid to the city. And you probably saw that detailed breakdown of what those revenue shares are in the actual development agreement, but we can talk about it if you'd like to. The city obligations, we provide a grant in amount equal to the purchase price of 2 acres, which comes to $217,800 at the time of land purchase agreement closing, which right now we're shooting for, I think, April 1st on that, or the end of March. Provide an economic development grant at the time of certificate of occupancy for the private sports retail facility of 1.6 million. The city will pay our annual debt payment for this grant out of the new increment created from the private sports campus and retail development. So the city will be paid back for that. Provide TIF rebates for 10 years based on the assessed value of the private sports and commercial project. The minimum base right now is set at 8 million, so it'll be at least that. And their percentage of rebate is 85% if they stay within the 8 million to 13,999,000. If they get to $14 million value, their rebate will go up to 90% because the project could continue to grow in value in that direction. That helps them balance out to not have to pay so much for those fields. That was the big concern, is the field value went up so high for them. We will enter into agreement with the developer to provide sponsorship and naming rights services and concessions management. So it's just the flip side. We're entering into this with them. Consider future discussion with the developers regarding the city facility management services agreement to be determined as the project progresses in Parks and Rec and the developers work through programming and facility management and staffing needs. If a future agreement is needed for facility services, the agreement will be reviewed and considered for approval by council. Robin, did you have any other point on that? Future management potential?
No, I
Okay,
don't.
sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
You're fine.
So that is the basics of this particular project. And Luke, I don't know if maybe later we want to show those renderings or not, but I think you guys remember that we split the building out a little bit. So it provides a kind of a courtyard space in between, which is kind of exciting. They'll be able to do some cool things in between there, probably partner with you on some, whatever you end up doing in there. It also provides a pathway to the northern retail and parking and then down south to the fields. So that ended up being a good decision. Do you have anything to add about the project?
No, I just want to say, it's been a pleasure working with everybody at the city. They've been great. This is kind of a complicated project. We've been doing the sports world for 17 years now. And so it's just a different type of, I don't want to say industry, but realm in which you kind of have to understand all the ebbs and flows of it. And so for us, it's been great getting to know Norwalk and what it needs, and hopefully we can provide something that kind of stands the test of time here. So really enjoyed working with everybody.
I have a quick question. Are we still in public hearing?
We're in the public hearing.
Got it.
All right. Lindsay, have you received any written or oral comments about this?
I have not.
Do we have any other public comment? Hearing none, let's go ahead and close public hearing at 6:33 PM and we will get into the meat of this. Item 6I is resolution approving development agreement with Sportsplex USA LC and Heartland Sports Properties LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. So we just had the public hearing on this item. Resolution is going to approve the development agreement between the city, Sportsplex USA and Heartland Sports Properties. What's your question, Brian?
Real minor. C, the second paragraph in C in the management agreement talks about a mutually agreeable to the parties as far as name controls, naming rights. And in the bottom paragraph, it says we give the sponsorship the sole right to manage, control, and operate. And I was just curious what kind of input, something terrible like Washington Redskins, then how would we fix it?
That sole ownership or that sole management is for the concessions.
Okay, but it also says sole right to manage, control, operate, coordinate, and supervise the concessions, naming rights, sponsorships, etc.
yes, with the naming rights and the sponsorships and the concessions, they will be managing that completely. And then we get the commission split there that you can see on that breakdown.
Right. So where would our input be? If, like I said, it was something disdainful like Washington Redskins.
The only thing I can tell you is that we've specifically had discussions with Mike, and you're using Washington Redskins. We use some other restaurants as an example. It would be clearly not something that the city would want to have associated with our facility. So we just
Exactly.
explained to them, that's part of what has to go into that agreement, is that the city has to be given some ability to review who could get those sponsorships.
Perfect.
I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Got one on the sponsorship side.
Yeah.
So last time you said that they were being split equally. Are there 4 partners involved or is there only 3?
There's 3 partners,
But we're only getting a quarter of it. We're not getting. a
3
third of it?
partners, and then the 4th part of it is who's ever performing basically the sales commission. So if you're talking about the concessions, if we're managing it, then out of the net profits is 25 to the manager, and then 25 to the city, 25 to Heartland, 25 to Sportsplex USA. It also allows us to subcontract in there.
That's the sponsorships also?
That's the sponsorships as well.
So the concessionaire, whoever's running it's gonna share in the sponsorships of the.
No.
Sponsorships?
No. So if you just take the 25% of it is for either sales and management, and then for both parts of it. So if you look at the concessions.
I'm good with concessions. I'm talking sponsorship.
It's the same thing.
But it's not. It's listed separately here. It's
It's
shared
the same-
sponsorship.
It's the same breakdown. So somebody, sportsman on there, which is 25%, will handle the sales management, subcontracting of people to sell the sponsorship. What comes out of that is split 3 ways, but they get 25% for doing that. Think of it as a
So
sales
the
commission.
sponsorships are split 4 ways, not 3 ways.
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And who is the
But then on
sportsman?
the-
Who's sportsman? Is that?
That is us. That's our.
So
that's
so
our
you guys are
manager.
keeping half of the sports sponsorship dollars and giving the other half to.
One goes to, we have our building is called Sportsplex USA. That is a separate company, Sportsman. And when we do the Sportsman side of it, we will most likely subcontract the group to do that. So we won't even retain it. It's just the ability to go out to the public equally.
It just sounds like you're taking it, saying we're gonna take your dollars and we're gonna take, what's the difference between, so if you named the concession stand, since the city owns it, does that a shared sponsorship or is that a sole sponsorship? I mean, what's the difference between the two? I got that, this is where I'm getting hung up on this.
Okay, so
Because if I'm you, I'm gonna try to find a way to make everything a shared sponsorship because you're, in theory, keeping 75% of it for your
that's
multiple companies and only 25% of the city.
no, so an exclusive sponsorship is any sponsorship that is specific to the facility. So inside of the courts facility, inside of the city facility, if you name the concession stand or name the offices or name a court, that is an exclusive sponsorship. The city retains 75% of that. If somebody comes in as the naming rights of the whole project, since there's 3 entities in there, then that is split between the 3 entities. So if it ends up being
3 or 4 entities. Getting back to I'm just trying to figure this out because you keep saying
Right.
split evenly between 3 entities is 33%, not 25.
right, but somebody has to go, it would be like hiring somebody to go do it.
But who are the 3 entities?
The 3 entities are the city, Sportsplex USA, and Heartland Properties. And they pay this,
And then your 4th entity is Sportsman.
yes, who goes and
And
does the work.
Sportsplex is 3 of those 4 entities,
We are
directly or
Part of one.
indirectly.
part of 3 of those, yes.
Okay. And that's my issue with this is that I don't feel like it's equitable to the city.
Well, the city, so if you break
Because
it down,
we're putting in how many dollars into this project? Almost $30 million into this project in total. I mean, I'm stressing that I don't feel that this is being equitable to the city.
If you look at what the cost of the fields are going to be and what those are going to end up being, that is relatively the same as what the city is putting in on their courts building, and close to the same amount that Sportsplex USA is putting in the retail building plus the outlot. So the amount going into this respective facilities are pretty close, and the amount of traffic that each of those will produce is relatively close. So when you're talking about what each entity brings to the table, they're relatively the same.
But the other side of it is to get to your facility, you need roads and other such, and we're paying for those. I know we're not right up front, but we're paying for those.
I suppose, but I mean.
Yes or no? It's not, I suppose.
No,
Yes, we're paying for them, or no, we're not. I mean, I'm parsing things, but I'm also trying to tell you that the city's putting $30 million into this whole project.
But that infrastructure is serving all of Norwalk Central, not just their piece.
Right.
And you're trying to define an amount of money that you can spend on a contractor, right? To provide that service for you or
Correct.
you're
Correct.
gonna hire
It's fairly
somebody.
normal when you go and hire a concessionaire, or you go and hire somebody to sell naming
So
rights or any of that.
so in effect, that's coming off the shares of all the other entities that are involved, right? Everybody's chipping in
Right.
to do
If
that.
we sold a naming rights deal for $100,
Right.
and 25% of that would go to the management commission and the sales, and then the rest of it would be split amongst. We went and sold $100 sponsorship as a court's, naming right of a court, so to speak, or it's Hy-Vee court or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
Then the management and the sponsorship of that is 25%, and then the city retains 75. So exclusive to your building, you retain 75. If it's shared amongst the entire complex, then it's 25, 25, 25, 25.
There's no incentive for that group to go out and sell exclusive sponsorships for us. The incentives for that group to sell to the others and cover. If Sportsplex is involved in this, in that 25%, your incentive is to push them to the other side of it.
The incentive is to get the 25%.
Correct. But if Sportsplex is that entity, this is what I'm getting at, is they're if they have a shot at keeping 75% of it into their pocket rather than 25% of it, they're going to be pushing all their sponsorships the other direction.
Yeah, but they're not, Sportsplex isn't going to be able to get any of the share of the name of the court inside the court building.
I concur, but if he's talking to Hy-Vee, is he going to have the courts named Hy-Vee, or is he going to try to get the fields named Hy-Vee because the fields aren't exclusive to the city?
He's talking to Hy-Vee, he and I are gonna have a problem.
I knew that was gonna come out.
He threw that as an example, so that's why I'm
I missed that.
He used it as an example, that's why I'm using it.
Hy-Vee is not my friend.
That's what I mean. The incentive's not there.
Write that down.
The incentive's for them to push it into.
But okay, so,
Laughs, but I'm not kidding.
The objective for us is, go ahead.
but if they are talking, if they are talking to Hy-Vee and they do sell an incentive package, the portion of that incentive package that comes as a naming of a court, we get 75% of that, and we get 25% of the other for the share. Correct?
Correct. So
What's classified as shared? Because there's no good definition of that.
shared is generally just two things. It's naming rights of the entire facility and the concessions. The reason we do the concessions as a shared, the city will have a concession spot. Heartland will have a concession spot. There may be another eatery on there or something like that. The object is to not have the internal conflict of sending somebody to the court or somebody. It's designed to be able to share that across the board. Same thing with the sponsorships. The sponsorship's going to cover the whole area. And so it'll be marked in probably a couple different ways. And so everybody has agreed that, the goal is to make this work. And everybody has line items for sponsorships to make this work. And so the object is, and that's why we're trying to do it all under one blanket. If the city goes out and does one thing, Heartland goes out and does another, and we have everybody going on in the community in a disorganized way, that's not really what you how you want to present this in art.
David, your apprehension or your concern about those what ifs, I think are real critical points to make sure we have in that actual agreement that I think that's where we're going to have to be very careful, whether that's, I use the word audit, just because I can't think of a better word right now, but it may be something where we come back periodically and you see, well, why is it that we don't have any sponsorships on the city buildings, but all the court, if that's something that were to happen, all the fields have sponsorships, we don't have anything in our building. At that point in time, we may want to come back and say, hey, this doesn't look right.
The other thing I think is it's not a competition between the two. We're both served better by working together and by having all good things happen on both sides. We're both served better. I think you guys know that as a business. So I don't feel like to your comment, Luke, that, you know, if nothing's happened on the city side and everything happens, that's not to their benefit either. It's to their benefit that it's all going well.
And I think having it managed by one entity is a great idea because you're going to be working through the community. If you got two different groups trying to plug the same, I mean, what if both sides came up and tried to approach Jim for a Dodru field? You know, so having one group approach him is a better deal. That just makes sense.
I like that a lot better.
Dodru field.
I
Got a
think
nice
something
ring
else
to
to
it.
note for this that I feel is maybe not as fair to him, but more fair to us is the shared concession side is that we're getting 25%, not just on the concession side of our building, but off of their separate concessions clear at the south end of their fields, plus any eateries that they have in their other private building. You don't have to give us 25% of that. But it's, again, like Jackie said, it's just that whole, we're all working together because we're all benefiting from each other. So I feel like that was a generous piece to add in.
Part of the, and just one last thing, part of the complexity of this is that it's three different entities, but we wanted to have it be a good experience for the user. They don't need to know all the differences when they walk in. They just need to be able to have a good experience. And while there will be city offices and they'll have, you know, you'll have city programs and you'll have private programs and club programs. For the most part, people just want to be able to enter into the sports complex. They don't want to have to choose between those things. And that's the main objective, is to be able to do that and have it kind of seamless throughout. So that was our initial thought.
Other comments, discussion? Any public comment? I get a motion to approve the resolution.
Motion.
Okay.
Never mind.
I'm gonna do. Okay, so motion by Baker, second by Reba. How's that? Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
That laugh. Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. All right, item 6J is public hearing on a proposed development agreement with Diligent HCC LLC. So we'll open up the public hearing at 6:48 PM. So Sportsplex is going to develop on land currently owned by Diligent Development. So this agreement is much broader than Sportsplex and encompasses all of what we're calling Norwalk Central. So Holly, would you and Tim present to council?
Sure. So the development agreement with Diligent, we had one several years back when we kind of started this whole project, and it was really focused on getting Chatham put in. We didn't have a lot of set in stone projects just yet. We just knew that by getting that street in, things would start to develop. That got kind of put on hold, waiting for projects to happen, COVID. So we re-entered this when we got the Sportsplex group in. They also have the Hughes Century Crossing building and their residential is kicking off. So we kind of came back to the table and looked at all that infrastructure need and what we needed to do. So we came together with this agreement that they would essentially build all of the infrastructure needed in this piece of Norwalk Central. So it will be serving all the retail areas. I don't know if I'll get the map up there, but they'll be serving all the retail areas, the campus, the public and private pieces of the sports campus. If we have another future city facility, it will serve that. It'll extend Chatham. And it'll extend the Hughes Drive north and south, as well as some additional streets leading into the sports campus area and the retail areas. So with that, the developer's obligations, they'll construct in the development agreement, it says that they will construct the retail center, Hughes Century Crossing, which is already in existence. And we left that in there because it was a part of the original agreement that this one is replacing. And so they would have a $1.5 million minimum assessment with that building, which they've already met. Buildings up, and we have that value on that. They'll cause the construction of the sports campus infrastructure project. And so that is the roads and the sewer and everything that leads to that. They'll cause the construction of the sports campus site preparation, so the mass grading. They'll cause the construction of the commercial infrastructure project, so all of the other commercial and retail areas as well. They'll enter into a minimum assessment agreement with the city for $6 million for future commercial developments being served by the new infrastructure. So that's in addition to the 1.5 that's already built in there. And then they'll convey land for private sports campus parcel to Sportsplex USA and Heartland for $250 a square foot. They'll convey the land for public recreation facility parcel, our city facility, to the city for $250 a square foot. They'll dedicate approximately 2.05 acres to the land for the city for a public park, hopefully a future amphitheater. They'll convey approximately 3.66 acres to the land to the city for regional stormwater detention facility. They'll cause the construction of a 10-foot bike trail along the gas main easement running east and west from Sunset Drive to East 18th Street, as well as a northern trail connection to Chatham along Sunset Drive. So the cost to the developers for this is 10 to 12 million. Is that about right? And then the city obligations, we will provide an economic development grant in the amount of 1.54 some change million at the completion of the first street and related infrastructure that provides access to the sports campus site, as well as our recreation facility site. And then the city will pay our annual debt payments for this grant through the increment created by the new commercial development served by the new infrastructure. And then provide TIF payments for up to 20 years from the increment created by the new commercial developments in the project area that's served by the new infrastructure. It'll be semi-annual payments of 90% rebate after the city's debt payment comes out first. And then equal to the cost of the public infrastructure, but not to exceed 12 million. And then that includes their upfront grant and the rebates. Necessary, the city will include the increment from the Sportsplex Heartland development into diligence rebates after the 10-year agreement with Heartland and Sportsplex is complete, if we still owe them money. We will acquire approximately 4.34 acres from Diligent for the city's public recreation facility parking parcel for $250 a square foot. Acquire approximately 3.66 acres from Diligent for the purpose of building a regional detention center for $33,000 per acre. Also a pretty large area, not just this piece that we're talking about. Install a traffic signal at Chatham Avenue and Highway 28 at the city's sole expense when the Iowa DOT traffic warrants exist. The basic points of both sides. There were maps included too of the infrastructure network and the parcels.
We're having a technical issue up here, sorry.
That's okay.
There's no actual development agreement in the. I can't remember it go. It was there before.
There was, yeah.
Okay.
When we
It
added,
changed the
when I added
second
that
because of-
graph.
Oh,
Sorry.
I was like,
I
I
asked the
swear I
question.
read it this afternoon.
Cover what are acceptable reimbursable costs, please.
Might have to have Gene do that one. The acceptable, he asked what are the acceptable reimbursable costs for the infrastructure?
Because I didn't really see that in the agreement, so.
Acceptable.
Yeah, so when we pay them back for the infrastructure and have to turn in their receipts for all the work that they have done, like what do we consider to be acceptable?
Yeah, they turn in invoices and canceled checks generally. Trying to think what we did with signature.
Is that
I
spelled
mean, the
out? in the
actual
agreement?
invoices and then the canceled checks.
It should be spelled out in the development agreement. I think it says engineering costs, hard costs, even limits, development fee reimbursement. I think it gets fairly well detailed. It's also an exhibit.
Okay, yeah, so review, is it this one, review of a sports campus cost documentation?
I find.
Commercial infrastructure project, landscaping, grading, interest expense, other costs related to financing, development fees not to exceed 6%. And then commercial infrastructure is.
So the line I have issue with is interest expense on this one, because I don't feel like we should be paying your interest expense on top of our interest expense, so. That's the one that I've had issue with in prior development agreements, and I have issue with it here again, so.
David, so you know, we did bring that up with our bond counsel. Gene, jump in if I'm stating this wrong from what you recall, but Amy Bjork's are with Dorsey Whitney specifically brought up that that is a common request.
That's fine if it's common, but it's not okay with me. It's
No,
not okay
understood.
for us to pay their financing costs on a project.
I mean, everybody's gonna have their own opinion. I would say that from my side, the way we see it is a lot of this infrastructure is going in day one to serve a good portion of the site that maybe isn't going to create TIF right away, especially for us. So we will have to bear the interest of carrying all that infrastructure. So
The cost of doing business and being a developer is paying for the interest. I struggle with us paying your costs to run a business. It does not make sense to me. And just so you know, I'm going to vote no purely on that one statement right there. I don't feel like we should be paying your interest costs. That's the only reason I'm going to vote no on this tonight. So
David,
you can try to convince me all you want. You won't change my mind at this point. I don't want to pay your interest costs when we're already paying interest on this project.
I guess in my opinion, they're spending money right away, putting the street and the structure and all of that in. And that is, I guess, you know, since we're eventually going to pay for that street, I don't have a problem with reimbursing the interest, because we would be paying that interest if we put the street in. We would be covering it. The fact that they're covering it, you know, I guess with the TIF and all of that, I don't have a problem with it.
You're looking for a reimbursement for cost or expense, right? I mean, that's basically what it is.
yes,
And so this is part of your cost.
it's one of our costs. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm also not a fan of accepting canceled checks as a proof of a cost either. So just so you know, that doesn't really seem to fly in too many worlds. I don't get why it is okay in this world. So
I understood canceled checks in addition to invoices.
Right.
they can do invoices or that. They don't have to, they can do one or the other.
Oh, I don't believe. I'm not sure about that. That should be changed if that's the case. We need invoices and canceled checks.
We did that with signature. We'll do this.
Yeah.
Lindsay, have you had any written or oral comments on this?
We have not.
Okay, any other public comment? Let's go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:58 PM. Item 6K, the resolution approving development agreement with Diligent HCC LLC, authorizing annual appropriation tax increment payments and pledging certain tax increment revenues to the payment of the agreement. So we just had the public hearing on this item. The resolution approves the development agreement between the city and Diligent. Holly, do you have anything to add?
I guess the only thing I would add is that, I know developers, sometimes can kind of get a bad reputation because a lot of times communities will think, oh, big bad developers coming in to take over and things. But I'm really, really happy that we're able to work with Diligent and People's Company. They have been really good partners to work with. And I mean, this has been a messy project from the start because it's such a big project. There's so much that's going into it and so many different entities. And, we had a lot of opinion going into it because it's our Norwalk Central area. And that's, of course, difficult for developers to try to work around when they're also trying to have a return on their investment. So I will just say that I'm very happy that we've been able to work with them, and Tim was a good addition to the team. So I'm super glad. I know that we've mentioned that before, that Diligent brought him on because he's been just kind of that center point person to bring everything together and be calm and be level-headed about everything. So that's been great.
Okay.
And they're bringing our dream to life with this. So I'm super happy.
So I have a question for Jim. So we already have a development agreement with Diligent for that area. Do we need to formally cancel that agreement before we sign this agreement, or what's the mechanics of that?
Well, this agreement recognizes that old agreement. I can say it cancels it out, but it's an amendment to that previous agreement in a way. And when you amend the terms and you agree to amendment, what's that?
There's language in here that says it.
Okay, I missed that.
Yeah, so it's.
Okay.
It's replacing, it doesn't necessarily say cancel, but we're good.
All right. What other discussion, questions, comments you guys have?
I just want to echo some of what Holly said. There's been a lot of give and take over the years. There's been a lot of compromise, a lot of push back and forth, a lot of concessions made, I think, on both sides. You know, this is certainly in my tenure on council, this is the first time we've tackled a project like this. And I don't really want to do one again anytime soon, but it has been, I'm just very happy with how everything has, all the discussion, the disagreement, the concession, the consensus. Thank you, everybody involved.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think this is probably the biggest project I remember the city ever do. Since I've been there. And I think it has a lot of good prospects for the future and helping the community and economically as well as quality of life. Looking forward to it.
Definitely had more progress than the circle.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it was nice to see Holly busy too.
Yes. What other comments do you guys have?
Understood.
Questions? Or any public comment?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, so I got a motion by Livingston and a second by Riva. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Riva,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
No.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, guys. Item 6L. It's a public hearing regarding a zoning amendment to change 106.81 acres south of Beardsley Street and east of 50th Avenue from agricultural reserve to R160 single family residential. So we'll open up the public hearing at 7:03 p.m. So this area was once part of Doc Ron's property. Luke, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, so other than that, the request is a pretty simple one. It's 106 acres of that Dr. Ron property south of Beardsley Street, a little east of 50th Avenue. It's currently in our Ag Reserve District. The request is to change it to R160. It does meet our comp plan land use plan, which is currently medium density residential for that area, which would allow up to R3. So this R1 project would be fine in that zoning district. The exhibit presented by Cooper Crawford does show a kind of draft layout of lots, so you can get an idea of what they're thinking. But since this is just a straight R1 zoning, your approval tonight doesn't lock in any of that. In fact, I think we've got a meeting with Brad and some other folks on Monday to go over some more details on things. So that gives you an idea of what we're looking at. I believe we were around, Brad, do you remember how many lots in that?
247.
247 right now. So right around that 250 mark. I'm sure they'll try to meet that mark as we adjust some roads and move some things around. So yeah. I get the last thing I leave with, P&Z did consider this at their last meeting, a public hearing, and recommends approval.
Any public comment? Lindsay, we received any comments on this?
We have not.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and close public hearing at 6:04 PM. Item 6M is first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map of the city of Norwalk, Iowa by rezoning 106.81 acres of land south of Beardsley Street and east of 50th Avenue from AR Reserve to R1 60 single family residential. So agricultural reserves R160. We just heard about this in a public hearing about rezoning from ag reserve to R160. Luke, you got anything else?
Excuse me, sorry, no, I do not.
On the map, there is a street that comes out to the west. Where is that in relation to the hill? Because there's a significant hill there. I'm just wondering about sight lines and
Brad Cooper, Cooper Crawford Associates. That's the top of the hill where our main street comes out currently. Our road pattern basically follows the ridges that are out there.
Okay.
There's a little bit of grid as we get to the south, but for the most part, all those, like the cul-de-sac there follows the ridge. The main northwest street follows that ridge as it curves down to the south. As Luke pointed out, we've got a meeting with Jerry's Homes. They've purchased the land to the east to coordinate our two stub streets so we connect into them correctly. We've got that set for Monday. So after that, we're moving forward with a preliminary plat as fast as we can, as long as this is approved.
further discussion.
One question. I don't know who this is gonna be. This is served by that new sewer line.
Yes.
And do you-
Well, not, I guess I take that back. You guys are making a connection across Beardsley and this one, aren't you?
There's that big trunk sewer that leads to the pond south of town that does go through this area. So the area of the concept that we're showing there is just empty.
It
That's
doesn't,
got that
it
easement.
doesn't connect to the new one we just installed.
You're not connecting to the west, you're connecting to the north, right up to the middle.
Correct. We are not connecting to the new one. We're going around.
There's a ridge through there, and that kind of corner of 50th goes northwest. So, yeah.
I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry. Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm devastated and heartbroken with the development of this land. I know it's gonna happen. I'm struggling a lot with the R160. Far more dense than I would like it to be. I understand it's in compliance with our comp plan and all of that good stuff, but R160 is too dense for me.
It's next to it.
I will say that our intent is not to have all 60-foot lots. The proposed rezoning to the east that Jerry's Homes is going to bring in, I don't believe you've seen it yet, but they're proposing a lot of density. We're proposing a mix of 60-foot lots that buffer against them. And then as we move to the west, all those lots are in the 75 to 80-foot width. So the majority of our lots are like a Timberview or a Blooming Heights south.
Right, which would be great. This doesn't say that. I'm taking you at your word, right? But when we approve this, it gives you the
We can do anything,
authority
yeah.
to do anything, right? Yeah,
Right, that's the minimum.
I understand.
Yep.
Yep, I understand.
I just got a couple comments. You know, it's always nice to see the green pastures and that sort of thing. But I was surprised to learn that, you know, the runoff into Lake Colchester, it's been reduced by residential development on that area. Because as we do these projects, the stormwater runoff is being addressed as we do each one. And I was really surprised by that. I didn't expect that. I thought we'd be going the other way. The other comment that I have is I would hope as we develop this and they're naming streets and naming different things, we find some room in there to be able to recognize Doc Ron, maybe the Ron family in some way, because they did a lot for the community too. And maybe throw a few horse names out there in those streets, I don't know, you know. But some way to recognize what that family's contributed to the community.
Sure.
But, and kind of to echo the sentiments, you know, some places, you kind of want them to stay the same, but you know it can't happen. Yeah. Right? I mean, it just can't happen, but you sure wish it could. And this is probably one of those places.
Other discussion? Other public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Okay, so motion by Cool, seconded by Reva. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
No.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6N, resolution of support to participate as a founding agency of Central Iowa Waterworks. We let you know at the last meeting that this resolution of support was coming. At this point, we're just expressing that the city wants to be involved with the founding of Central Iowa Waterworks. The only binding commitment is to participate in meetings. So Luke also sent you an early draft of the 2080 agreement with that. I think this is probably going to change. I think the 2080 is going to change a few times when everybody starts participating. You guys think that?
You summarized it well. The only additional warning I would give is to our policy admin committee that will probably be armed with having to put a little bit more time and review. And Jackie just stepped out, so we'll have to let her know when she gets back in. I will say that what I found is beneficial is to go through the index or the table of content first, kind of highlight the most important sections and use that as initial guide because it is a large document that is easily to get lost in.
Questions? Comments? You're fine. Any public comment? Hearing none, can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so motion by Cool, seconded by Reva. Lindsay, would you go ahead and call a roll?
Do I call her name?
No.
Even though she stepped out?
What? You just have to mark on
Mark it on the minutes.
Mark on the minutes that
Okay.
she stepped away. Because
Okay.
She just doesn't participate in stuff.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston.
All right, motion carries. Item 6O is a resolution approving the site plan of Capital City Fruit. You guys got here. You guys got great time.
That's modern technology.
I'll tell you what. So I think it's great when our local businesses need to expand, and we're glad Capital City Fruit is expanding. Resolution is to approve the site plan for their expansion. I will say there's one gotcha here, and I'll let Luke explain that one.
Yep. So before we get to that, just the basics of the project, two aspects really: parking lot, truck loading area expansion of paving, and then about a 10,000 square foot building expansion. It did go to the P&Z, and their recommendation was related to this architectural standard things we'll talk about here in a minute. But they recommended to approve the site plan with a recommendation that the applicant and council further review the standards that the council waived initially when the building was initially approved. So to hit on the history of that a little bit, back in 2012, when we approved the site plan for the initial building, we did waive architectural standards. I included that resolution in your packet. And it include kind of two clauses, one where we waived architectural standards on the warehouse storage portion of the building, with understanding that future additions would comply with our code requirements. And the second related to that was within 3 years, the applicant would return to P&Z and council and kind of discuss future expansion plans as they would pertain to those architectural requirements. So related to that first one, we do have a building expansion. That building expansion does meet our architectural standards. So we're following that kind of clause of that original resolution. We did go back, look through our kind kind of records of minutes and stuff, and we didn't have the applicants come back in that 3-year time frame. So I reached out to them and kind of asked them to be here tonight to answer any questions. They've submitted a letter that we've included in the agenda packet that kind of talks about their plans as well. So really just trying to meet some of the intent of that resolution here as we approve this expansion of their project. Happy to take any questions.
Questions? Comments?
I'm the one who brought up the memory of the architectural standards. And I mean, I'm so happy you're expanding. That's great. They intend to expand in the future. It doesn't make sense to do a lot of architectural upgrades. It's just gonna put a wall over it. But I do appreciate the letter saying that, you know, the architectural requirements will be met or addressed when the future edition is done. So I appreciate it.
Thanks. Any public comment? Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Too late, Brian. Motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Here, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Boy, you guys were just in and out. All right.
A lot of work to do, so.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to start the project, so the weather clears up here, so.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
And more good. And more for you guys' information, the council did pass a release of that mortgage for the original development agreement at the last meeting. I've been informed by the city clerk that she recorded that today, so that should be good to go.
Well, we enjoy and feel very grateful to be a business that operates here in the community of Norwalk. We think this community really supports businesses and commercial businesses that are here, as well as supporting the residents, trying to find that balance. It's very impressive.
Thank you. Thanks for being in town.
Yeah, we like having you here.
Absolutely. All right. Moving on. Item 6P is resolution approving a purchase agreement with Diligent HCC LLC in the city of Norwalk for approximately 3.66 acres in Hughes Century Crossing. So this resolution is to purchase land for the building of the stormwater detention facility that will serve areas south and west of Capital City Fruit. I think we'll also serve Capital City Fruit too.
Correct. Should, yeah.
All right. So this is going to provide an immediate larger buildable area in Norwalk Central by fulfilling stormwater requirements, and it will provide other landowners with the same. This is similar in concept to the Elizabeth Holland Park Regional Detention, although we're not going to be adding a park in this one. Wayne, you got anything to add?
No, sir.
All right. Any discussion, questions, comments from council?
Motion.
Second.
There you go. Motion by Lester, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Or public comment? Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester.
Yes.
All right. Motion carries. Item 6Q is resolution approving purchase agreement with Diligent HCC LLC and the city of Norwalk for approximately 4.24 acres in Hughes Century Crossing. So this purchase agreement will provide the space needed to put the new indoor rec facility and parking for that facility. Holly, you got anything to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. Any discussion, questions from council?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Lester, seconded by Livingston. Lindsay, go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember Reba,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6R. It's a second reading of an ordinance providing for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the 2022 addition to the Norwalk Urban Renewal Area pursuant to section 403.19 of the Code of Ordinances. This ordinance sets up the TIF district for Norwalk Central. Luke or Holly, you got anything to add this week? All right. Anybody got a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Lester. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Lester,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 6S, it's the second reading of an ordinance amending chapter 175 zoning regulations regarding fireworks sales. So last meeting, we had a public hearing on this zoning change to limit fireworks sales to M1 zoning districts. Council passed the first reading of the ordinance. Luke or Chief Porter, do you got anything to add?
I don't have anything specific to add. I believe we had some vendors in attendance and on Zoom that maybe wanted to make some additional remarks. And Luke, I believe I provided you a map that they provided me they'd like to show as well. So, but other than that, if Chief Porter has anything, I do not right now.
Okay,
Yeah, nothing further.
so we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment. We'll go ahead and give you 3 minutes if you want to identify yourself.
Yep. My name's Daniel, my wife Aubrey Foy, 9124 West 127th Terrace. Boom Daddy Fireworks located near the Fairway parking lot. Appreciate the council and Mayor Phillips for allowing us to speak again on this. Had a little bit more time to do some research, and as you've pulled up there, just the map provided by Luke, we've marked up there, and I'm sorry.
That was my phone, my bad, I'm sorry.
But just wanted to kind of relay the information we're hearing, and realizing when we sell fireworks in town, didn't know where the city shoot was at, and that poses kind of a different safety threat for us as being vendors there around that park if the city was to continue shooting that. So just wanted to touch on that. The issues we're kind of hearing, talking to businesses to get in there is the industrial districts are not made for public traffic. The parking is not there. They're made for businesses to have employees. The commercial areas are designed for public use. Just hearing last time that there was some concern with getting legal action if you try to single out a specific area. Doing some research, noticed that a lot of the neighboring communities around the Des Moines Metro do have ordinance, including the city of Grimes, that indicates fireworks are not allowed to be sold on a parcel that has residential use. Wanted to just bring that up. And another item was some sales tax revenue that was in the staff report, indicated about $600 of revenue to the city. As you heard another vendor say they paid about $1,800. They thought to the city, our fireworks stand pays about $1,000. There are permits that the city requires that are $200 for each tent, so that would be another $800. So that's just kind of on the surface. Talking to businesses, retail brings retail. Not everybody that comes to our fireworks stand is from Norwalk. They come from South Des Moines and lots of areas in Des Moines. So a lot of the businesses just wanted to share that they may come from my fireworks stand. They may see Norwalk and eat at the restaurant and do other things. So the overall hope is that we can stay and could work on a different resolution that would allow some fireworks stands that weren't close to residential properties to stay. We know that the town really enjoys that. So appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Appreciate you allowing us to speak a second time. I wanted to highlight again I'm sorry, Jim Hinter, J&L Fireworks, 1511 70th Street, Windsor Heights, Iowa.
Thank you.
You bet. We've still got 2 years left on a 3-year lease agreement, which is a very legitimate concern that for us. Norwalk again was one of 4 sites statewide that participated in the State Fire Marshal Fuse program. a safety program that we thought was well received. We've also, I wanted to bring to your attention this substantial investment. I left you some information last time, but the tent that we typically have in the Ace store is about a container. We have that product in a warehouse, and our shipping cost this year was roughly $40,000 for that container. And that is quadrupled, I understand, because of shipping issues in the last few years. But I wanted you to realize the type of investment. We have looked through the M1 zoning, not real practical for tent location, traffic, visibility, and certainly have some issues with the lighting, et cetera. We'd like an opportunity to continue to do business here. We're concerned and think we have a legitimate concern with our contractual obligation. But at a minimum, we would like you to consider a delay for this season and an opportunity, like the other gentleman said, to work with the city and see if we can find a place that might be more suitable. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion, comments from council?
I got a few notes if I can.
Sure.
I just don't think it's a good proposal to limit it to this one. I mean, in theory, it's down to one property out there that's probably usable for this, and I just don't think that's good. I don't understand. The insurance came up with this 300-foot rule. I actually found out a little more about it. The insurance companies came up with this 300-foot rule. They have to post the signs for insurance reasons, and I don't know that there's, I'm sure the fire marshal requires it now, but it's insurance that's requiring it. I don't know. And I found that out, but I just don't think it's right for us. I think it's wrong. I'm questioning the $600 a little bit too, but I'm assuming part of that goes to Warren County, and that's why we're not seeing the whole amount. So
Yeah, it's a countywide formula based on population and levy rates.
Jim, has the situation changed any that, can we pass legislation that restricts how far they have to be away from residential areas?
No.
That's the thing. So basically, the situation remains the same, that if we do keep it where they can sell in a commercial area, they could go on any commercially zoned property.
Yes, we control it by commercial through zoning. So we designate what zoning areas they can be. We can't put restrictions unique to fireworks sales.
So the only way to change this is for the legislature to change what they hung on it, right? To give us, allow us the ability to govern our own areas and our spaces, which is what these people are actually asking.
Basically, through the state legislatures, when they pass that law, there's also a law that says when they specifically allow something, we can't contradict that. And that's what was argued in court before when other jurisdictions tried to exercise their zoning rights. And that's what the fireworks companies took them to court over. And the results of that were what the cities were arguing, that, hey, even though we can't regulate those locations, we still have our zoning rights. That law didn't stop us from being able to exercise our zoning rights at fixed zoning locations. So yeah, our way to control this is for council to decide what zoning it can be in. Council can certainly choose things other than industrial, which we have in the past, but as far as distance limitations, things like that, it's
that's not available
Can't
to
do
us
that.
as a remedy.
can we change it from being fireworks stands cannot be within this to temporary stands cannot be within X amount of feet of a residential property? Does that make it acceptable? I'm assuming that's what Grimes has done.
I don't think Grimes has done that. I think any legislation I've seen for cities that has been straight zoning.
You're saying straight zoning on fireworks only, or are you saying on the temporary?
For controlling fireworks.
I'm not talking fireworks. So if we change it to any temporary.
I think any limitations that we do and any manipulations we do when our discussions are surrounding fireworks, just because we do it elsewhere,
But if we make it across the board.
If I can finish though, it's, if every time we restrict it a little bit more, it weakens our ability a little bit more. And, you know, the fireworks groups, I'm not saying that about the individuals here, but the companies they perhaps work for, I mean, they aren't a non-litigious group. And every time we take a step towards doing something other than controlling it with our zoning, it weakens our legislation. If we want to push the gray area.
I'm asking you a different question than what you're
No, I
answering.
know exactly what you're asking.
No, you're going right back to fireworks. And I'm saying,
I know. what
I'm
you're
trying to
asking.
take it as broad as possible, similar to the tent situation. We couldn't limit it that, we had to make that for everybody, not just for fireworks, correct? Yes, no? I mean,
Yes, but
yes, no, that's a yes, no question. I want a yes, no
It's
answer.
not, because it's a gray area. You're not gonna get a yes, no on whether this is legal or not legal, because that's exactly what would be argued in the courts. It's every time we make a change to anything other than straight zoning, if we try to control it, even though if we couch it in a, okay, this is for all temporary sales, if 100% of the discussions were pointed at fireworks, even though we made it all through all temporary, yeah, we would have an argument in court. Absolutely. That would be an argument saying, no, this wasn't for fireworks. This was for all temporary structures. So that would be a good argument. Another good argument would be, well, the city of Norwalk discussed this only because of fireworks. And the only concern was fireworks. And really the intent of it was to legislate fireworks beyond their ability. And you have to get it back. I can't give you an answer. I don't know how a court would fall down on that, but my job is to tell you what the weaknesses are and what the gray areas are, and that's where we're at.
And I guess from listening to you the last two meetings, you've just been telling us that we can't pigeonhole fireworks into it. And I'm trying to tell you that I'm not a fan of the temporary things being right on top of somebody's personal property, regardless of whether it's fireworks. That's where I've been trying to get us to look at it's a broader picture than just fireworks. It's everything temporary structure wise. And in my mind, that's where the discussion should have been, not pushing fireworks into really just the Michael Foods property, maybe the Windows place.
But I think you're not going to get an opinion that is absolutely kosher and that's going to pass. If the council wants to go into that area and recognize the pros and cons of it and the gray area that we're to, the council can certainly do that.
But you've been telling us, I feel like you've been telling us that it's not a gray area, that it is definitely going to be a problem if we do this.
No, it's a gray area. In my opinion, it could be a problem. So yes, I definitely think it could be a problem.
That's fine. No, I just felt like it's just been a disconnect because I felt like you're the one that's been pushing us legally, saying
That's right.
we can't do this because of this. But I think that
You are
in my
absolutely
mind,
right. I'm pushing that.
my mind, I'm looking at it from a broader sense, saying let's quit trying to regulate fireworks and let's try to regulate temporary structures, which is where I think we should need to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'd like to see? We got one more reading on this after tonight, assuming that it would pass tonight. So the proponents of maintaining things the same, right? I would say if there's an ordinance out there that somebody has passed in the state of Iowa, right, that does what they're asking for, I would actually consider that, to look at that and ask that to be legally reviewed, right? To see where that would put us. Because it's not our desire to victimize a business. It really isn't. It's a safety thing and a straitjacket it seems like the state has put us in, right?
Yes.
So I would encourage that, if they're interested, the fireworks folks to forward to us if there's an ordinance somebody has passed in the state of Iowa, right? That accomplishes the things you're asking for us to do, right? We'd like to review that. And I'm not saying we'd act one way or the other on it. I got no idea. But we could certainly look at it and we could ask for a legal review on it and consider it, right? But I'm sitting here, I have talked with our state representatives on this, okay? And I have told them, I thought that was a bonehead move that they don't allow us any wiggle room, right? Right. And I don't think they intended to allow us any wiggle room. Really don't. And so we're where we are. But I would as one member of the council, I would entertain looking at that if such an animal exists out there. And I guess that's all I've got to say.
I would like, I guess, to mention to David also, you know, we just went through all of that on the temporary sales. I don't think we're interested in readdressing all of that simply to try to fix. Yeah, I don't think I guess in other words, a coffee trailer in a church parking lot very close to residential is the same risk as the fireworks. And for you guys that didn't want to proceed with this, our only alternative is then it goes back to the original where you've got fireworks within 20 feet of a house. How can you possibly rationalize that? I just struggle with this until, if we were able to, as Ed said, that's a good idea. If there's a law out there that's been figured out, I think it just depends on if they've decided to litigate it or not. That's what it amounts to, Ed. I don't see that it's possible to move forward. I can't picture fireworks all going up in the cars at the Fairware parking lot as a mess as that is anyway, let alone the one next to the houses behind the old Subway.
And that is zoned commercial.
That is all zone commercial, correct. We also have the M1 that is up by the storage facilities. There's a lot of room up there. No one's mentioned that. They just talk about Michael Foods and Windsor Windows. There's also other M1s in town.
Got the Capital City Fruit Court.
Yeah, they're right here.
Yeah, it's not in fireworks. Their Apple phone said they were selling the old guys. That was 10 years ago. 10 years ago. That's right across my high school. They're not.
So let's do business later.
So is there any willingness on the part of council to delay this? I think it's a fair point that since the state enacted fireworks legislation, we have changed, I think, almost every year. And I don't know at what point people in our community get to rely on, I entered into a business contract for 3 years under this rule. And now I'm getting, you're changing the rule and I'm stuck with my 3-year contract that I cannot do anything with. Is there any, I mean, I think that's a fair complaint, independent of which side of the fence you're on. I think that's a fair complaint. Is there any willingness to delay this change a year, meet halfway, give him another year of his contract, but we get a year of his contract? I mean, I don't know. Is there any willingness to go that route?
If we give him a year on his contract, then we're allowing another year of that to the other two stands setting up next to residential areas.
Right. Yes, I agree with you.
That's the problem.
No, we're 2/3 of the way through this. If they come up with a new law, then we can always change it to that.
Well, we're
Let's
coming up
continue
with
to
a
get
new
this
law
done.
in the middle of things.
No, we're continuing with the state law.
So the way I see it, yes, we have changed every year.
Yeah.
And last year, we had a fireworks container set up. I don't think it was 20, but it was probably within 40 to 50 feet of a house.
Yes.
And that, to me, glaringly pointed out that we have a substantial risk there if we allow them in C2. They were in a commercial area. Let's see, just commercial. They were in a commercial area. It's in a dangerous location. And yet we can't put any restrictions on that commercial area to change that. we have to zone them out. Because of past litigation and the way the law is.
I understand that.
So, yeah. I would ask Jim, you and Daniel, please contact your legislators within the state to try to get them to allow us to be more flexible with the zoning for fireworks sales. I think that would help everybody.
Well, it's quite a change, you understand. You guys allowed this since the state passed that law, and you've gone in and tweaked it a little bit every year. And it's get frustrating, got a lot of outlay in product, et cetera, and I don't think asking us to delay it to get a season in and allow us to work, see if we can find some M1. It's a little late in the game for doing that. We're already starting to process the applications, et cetera.
Any further discussion or comments from council? Anybody like to make a motion on the second reading?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, so I got a motion by Baker, a seconded by Riva. Any further discussion or final discussion? For the second reading. Hearing none. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston.
No.
Lester,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Reba,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, that motion carries. I think like Ed said, if you can find an ordinance in the state of Iowa that allows us to do what we want to do. Let us show it to us.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 7, council inquiries and staff updates. Luke Parrish, you have an update on the Norwalk Low Moderate Income Rehab Assistance Program?
Yes, wanted just to let you know, including in the packet what that application and those contracts would look like. Worked with Jim to get those finalized so that we make sure we were doing it right. It's really based off of how the Metro Home program that's run from West Des Moines and Dallas Housing County Trust Fund. They run a similar program for all the Western Metro communities. It really helps through learning about their process. Maybe they would just say, we'll run yours too, but they did not. So we stole a lot of their application information and made it our own. So next step with that is just to announce it and let people apply. I'm working on kind of a flyer that has what the eligible activities are. And then the idea being working with Shelby on a kind of Facebook post announcement, and then we'll expect phone calls and emails. So.
Anybody, any questions for Luke? You got anything else, Luke?
Yeah, just a few things. Permit for February, October. Wow. I just had it pulled up here. 28 permits for February and between single family and townhomes. So that's pretty solid for a winter month. Nuisances, really just a few rubbish and tree issues that we're dealing with. So those are pretty simple. And then, so we've issued 28 like residential construction permits. Those are our new construction permits, but just permits in total for February, we issued 134. So that includes everything that you could ask for from community development. So that's a pretty standard number. I don't think we ever have reported on that to you guys, but so let you know some of the other stuff we're doing. And then on the development side, we've got, I think, 21 active site plans, rezonings that we're currently in the process of reviewing, commenting on, and bringing forward to you at some point.
Thank you. Carrie, do you have an update on 5-year staffing plan?
Yes. So my understanding is that council has requested a staffing plan in the past. And so last year, I don't know, mid-year, Luke Nielsen mentioned it to me, and we kind of put our heads together to figure out what format would be good, what it would what would be beneficial for council to know and what have you. So then kind of in conjunction with the budget season, I met with the department heads individually and we reviewed their current staff, their skill sets, what specific needs were not being met, what needs they might anticipate in the next 5 years, and then talked about how they could individually develop a staffing plan for their department and how to justify those needs. And then as the department heads worked with Jean and Luke through the budget process, they outlined their 5-year plan. You know, it kind of started out, I think, a little bit as a wish list. And as we talked about earlier with the budget discussion, you know, some people had to make sacrifices and kind of hold off on adding staff. But in the end, this document that's been presented is what we came up with. So to look at it, the first couple of pages are just some demographic information about our employees, gender, age, race, longevity. And then what Luke has up on the screen here is just some information comparing Norwalk staffing levels with other communities that have been deemed our sister cities in the past. You'll see Norwalk has 6.3 employees per thousand population, which is, if you look at the first 3 columns there, it's Norwalk, Waukee, and Johnston. So we're kind of right in the mix. North Liberty and Waverly are completely different. Part of that, I think, is Waverly doesn't have very much commercial development. It's mostly residential. And then with North Liberty, their fire department is completely different than ours. Luke and I called them earlier today just to kind of make sure that the figure that we had was correct. You'll see they only have 3 full-time equivalent employees in their fire department. And that is because, one, it's a voluntary department. So they have 3 full-time equivalent employees, but then the rest are volunteers. And then they also don't have emergency medical services.
They don't call.
Right.
Volunteer.
Right. So, so we really just, it's not a good comparison in looking at that, but, and then we have 0.71 employees, or a 3/4 employee for a 10 million valuation. And then the next page is kind of getting into the meat of the staffing plan. This is based on the information that the department heads provided. Positions that they thought they might need over the next 5 years, additional staff and needs, and then the dollar figures that are associated with that is the estimated salary along with the city's portion of Social Security benefits, Social Security, Medicare, and then, you know, their insurance contributions. So if you look at something and think, oh gosh, the salary would be 100,000, no, that includes, that's the whole city cost. And then the remainder of the document is all of the justification forms that staff, that department heads provided to justify their needs. And then a few of the departments also did kind of their own mini staffing plan. So while I'm the one talking and I put all of the paper together, it was the department heads that really did the hard work. So if you have any questions on the plan, certainly let me know. And then also if you have any questions on for the specific department heads, you can certainly ask them.
Or a comment. I didn't see in here anywhere, and I think we should consider, as the schools grow, especially for public works and admin, the staff that we share with the school might go away. And it isn't contemplated in here, especially when it comes to facilities maintenance, and if we have to hire an IT person. I mean, those are pretty significant positions, and it might be coming sooner than later. And so I would just suggest we need to consider the cost of those positions too.
Absolutely. On the IT part, we do have actually 2 IT positions considered in the next 5 years, which Tim Geyer is super excited about. But 1 just for the city in general, and then possibly 1 just for the library. But as far as facilities maintenance, that is a great idea. We'll definitely include that next year.
I appreciate the fact this addressed the sports center staffing and some of the things that revolve around that, increased activity and population. I visited with Luke offline here in the past and was curious how the department heads might see that impacting their individual departments and the city organization as a whole. It'll be up tempo operations a little bit. And obviously there'll be other functions that the Park and Rec will have to do beyond what they've got now. So I was glad to see that contemplated in here. Looks to me like a lot of thoughtful work went into this. And I appreciate the fact that dollars and cents are sitting there so we can understand the impact of things like that. And I appreciate the justification sheets because it gave me an idea of how they saw each of those positions being used. Okay, so I could understand it. So I appreciate the fact that this was done. I appreciate the way it was laid out. Okay. And I guess now we just have to watch the coffers and see how things roll into whether or not we make things real on those timelines. But the fact that it presents a stable document for us to kind of plan on and the staff to plan on. Thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else, Carrie?
Just to update on the community survey that ETC Institute finished for us. I was kind of hoping to have the results by today, but they said end of this week, beginning of next week, I would have the full results. So I'm excited to share that with you guys soon. And then on Monday, I meet with 6585 Consulting for an initial review of the compensation study results. So again, super excited about that. And then lastly, just I really enjoyed working for the city and I'm super excited about being the HR director. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Wayne, you got an update on the Beardsley Highway 28 intersection project?
You betcha. This is turning into quite a complex project, so I thought I'd bring forward the exhibit you see first in the packet. Shows the general improvements planned. The trail is going to go all the way from the crossing west of Lexington at Lakewood School. The trail will start there around Park Avenue, Cedar Street. You'll see more significant improvements beginning, and those will continue over past Elizabeth Holland Park over to the new Holland Point development. So that gives you a general idea of the currently where we're at with the improvements. We'll have a public meeting on Tuesday at 5:30 till 7 here in City Hall, where we're inviting the public. We kind of want to nail down a rough draft of the staging. It's going to be ugly, so I'm including it. So you guys are all going to be with me. You'll get angry phone calls. So what we've done so far is it's generally laid out in the quadrants. West half will be stage 1 through 3. East half will be the next stages. Stage 1 and 2 will be removing the median on the west side and then creating the north lane, all the work on the north side. There should always be traffic maintained both directions on that side. There might be 1 or 2 days where removing the median, or even a few hours where we have to limit traffic, but otherwise traffic will be maintained. Same thing with stage 3. There will be a time when access to McDonald's, we're gonna have to stage it where it'll be half a lane, half the driveway will be shut down, or we'll have to find alternate access, but generally everything will be open. There's work way out to the west for the trail. That's not real significant and won't impact too much. That's the easy stuff. When we get into over in the east side of the highway, that's where things get more complicated. The get and go access cannot be maintained where it currently is. We're going to do a new access road down the Marketplace Drive and rebuild that intersection. At the same time, we're proposing the right in, right out along Highway 28 be constructed. When that is complete, well, okay, so let me stop there. Obviously, traffic cannot be maintained when we're doing this. It'll be maintained from the highway over to Get and Go, and it cannot get over to Echo to the Ridge area. So the biggest heartburn we're gonna have there is if you live in the Ridge and you're trying to take your kids to Lakewood School in the morning, you're gonna have a difficult time doing that. At this time next year, we're hoping Holland Point they're proposing constructing this year, their next phase. That would make a connection from Beardsley to Colonial Parkway. That's going to be probably the most direct route to get people through there. There's no way to construct this. I shouldn't say there's no way. There's not an easy way to construct this intersection and maintain traffic, the Marketplace one. So that's stage 4. The next 2 stages are just varying work in there. We're probably gonna would switch stage 5 and stage 6. Stage 5, the way they show it, would maintain traffic through Marketplace. I would propose I don't want to restrict traffic through it and then let them through and then restrict it again. But nonetheless, these are the stages. They may change in order a little bit. That's the current plan. We've spent a lot of time on it, and then stage 7 is the trail, which that stage can go independently of everything else. It's just shown as an independent stage. One thing that could be done that would ease a little bit is the stage 6, the boulevard section in here. That could be changed to be 1 lane at a time, where we could allow eastbound traffic for a while the westbound lane's being built, and then flip it. We're estimating about 3 weeks worth of savings by just shutting it down. So we could make the project longer and ease some traffic concerns through there. If there's an interest in that, we're not showing that right now.
Wayne,
Wish I had something better to present.
you mentioned a good example of struggle of somebody from Echo taking kids to Lakewood School. The hope is that the time frame from construction doesn't creep into the school year. I just want to point out that I think it's good that Wayne is still pointing out that it could. I mean, if weather, who knows what impacts we could see that would cause that to creep into the school year.
Ideally, stage 1, 2, and 3 will be March, April, May, and then when school's out, we can do the work on the east side. At least it would help that spring construction or spring school traffic.
The other thing I would point out that I learned when one of our committee meetings is that some of this, like closing that entrance is really, that Beardsley entrance to Get and Go is really a function of necessity due to requirements by the state or DOT, right? They say you have to put in that island at the intersection on the east side, which mirrors the one on the west side. And in order to effectuate all of the improvements that are necessary, we really have to close that.
That's correct.
And it's very important to note that the DOT doesn't come up with median regulations just to make it a pain. There's a safety component of wanting to make sure that traffic is safe in the area.
And as it sits right now, that entrance is like, there's a whole lot of safety issues. It's too close to the intersection. And I mean, there's all kinds of things that are factoring into the necessity of moving that entrance.
Yep, and we're gonna drop that, what we'd call the road profile. We're gonna drop that down there. So if you're heading westbound on Beardsley, you kind of go up a steep hill. We're gonna drop that down. So even if that entrance were to be allowed, it would end up being way too steep, because for safety reasons, we want to get rid of that vertical curve. It's gonna be a great project, just get through the painful construction of it. So if you have any comments, let me know. We have, like I said, a public meeting on Tuesday night, and Shelby's been good at getting the word out with a comment form to the general public. The median, I think, came up by somebody. Yeah, Public Works doesn't want the medians there. We would prefer not to have them. They're a requirement through the state that we have to have those.
Wayne, do you have a wild guess as far as, and I know you can't be held to it because of weather, et cetera. Are we talking like 4 weeks on that eastern Beardsley side, or 2 months, 6 months? I mean, what are we even talking?
Probably 2 to 3 months on the east side. I would say 2 to 3 months on the east.
Okay, thank you.
That it will be completely closed?
I'm gonna say, yeah. Yep.
Ow.
We'll be hoping for good weather then and starting.
Right. Stephanie's gonna turn in more mileage.
Yeah. There might be more golf cart traffic on the road, people driving to the golf course.
All right, anything else?
Yes, sir. At the last meeting, we had a USTEP grant application on there to the state. We already found out District 1 already approved it, so we have $200,000 to use toward this project from the state coming in. We had anticipated and budgeted getting it. It's not additional money, but it's still great that we found out in District 1, again, proving to be great partners with us. Thank you for adjusting the mechanic wages. We have 4 applicants, which is great. A couple of them look really good. So we appreciate, I think the salary change was key for that.
Good.
And then, I don't know if somebody else was gonna mention it, but the DOT is closing I-35 Friday, Monday, Tuesday overnight. That's it.
Thank you. Jim? Stephanie? David?
This one's gonna sound funny. We bought computers for the city and the school put them in, and then we've been replacing them. And I'm just curious what's happening to the old ones, because I don't think the school has the right to dispose of them. I would assume that they're still the city's property since we bought them. So I feel like we're not following that real well. You have them?
They are coming to the library and we'll be able to use them for staff training and programming and to check out within the building to patrons.
So you're getting how many? I'm just curious.
Last I heard from Tim, it's between 20 and 30. And I'm pretty happy about it.
It just hadn't been told because it just kind of was frustrating to me that felt like the school was taking them and not bringing them back to us. So yeah, that's all I had. Sorry.
Cool. Ed? My wife laid out my clothes for me tonight. And she did that because of not because of my poor taste, though that's true, but because of the colors. And these colors recognize people in Ukraine. And as I watch the terrible things that go on there, I think about our friends in Kosovo too. And it probably points out the fact that the world isn't all that big. It also points out that we share a lot of things with those other people. I know from time to time we debate maybe sometimes about, is it worth taking a trip? Is it worth making an agreement? Is it worth? And what's going on there shows that, yeah, you bet, it's worth taking a trip. It's worth making an agreement. It's worth being involved in the world outside. And we can debate what the causes of this are and the faults of different leadership, but point is, it happened. And so tonight, my thoughts and my prayers are with the people there. And that's all I can.
Thank you. Tony?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The only thing I've got is just want to pass on to the City Council that the Legacy lift station is now gone from the Legacy Golf Course. So our sewer has removed that. That leg of the sewer is all in place and tested, and we've finally eliminated that lift station. They're still working on the other leg of the sewer that will serve additional development. But that's also besides eliminating the lift station, is relieve some of the restrictions we had on development of Sunset Estates as well. So it's a good thing. Project is still in progress there. They should be finishing up within the next 30 days or so, and we'll still have surface restoration, of course, when seeding and sod is available this spring. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Chief Porter?
Thank you. Outdoor warning sirens are set to test on Saturday, provided that there's no threat of extreme weather. Those have been on hold over the winter months. The freezing temperatures cause damage to the sirens if they're set off when they're frozen. But it's that time of year, so they're going to start testing them again, beginning with Saturday. There's also a burn ban that's in effect in Warren County right now. It went into effect yesterday, and it's in effect until further notice. That's all I have.
We expect to get some or see some Facebook messages or phone calls about the sirens.
Yeah.
Disturbing pets and stuff.
Well, they're either upset because they're disturbing their pets or because they didn't go off. So we get both sides of it there.
It's always nice to get phone calls.
Right.
Chief Staples?
Just one thing, Saturday is the annual Guns and Hoses charity hockey game, Police Against Fire. I'll be participating, and again, we will support Camp Easter Seals in their bid. Well, we're going to support Camp Easter Seals, and they'd like to use the money to hire a full-time nurse, which they apparently need. That's all I got.
Didn't you have an injury last time? Something to do with
That was a previous game in a previous state.
All right, thank you.
Apparently the Des Moines firefighters were more gentle. So I'm gonna go.
I'll pass. You guys heard enough from me tonight.
Well, I'm not gonna pass. I had it scheduled to be here till 9, so. So just very quickly, on Ed's Kosovo comment, some of you might have received an email from the consulate for the conference call or Zoom tomorrow about this. So they are kind of concerned, obviously, about it. They think that there's a chance that, you know, if Russia is successful in their evil mission, that they will start to kind of move into the Balkans and towards Kosovo through their proxies of Serbia. So that is a concern of theirs. So we'll keep a close eye on that and hope for the best there and pray. But just thank you all so much for the support on this enormous project. And I was just looking at Lindsay sent out today. Her and Luke have this running spreadsheet thing report of all the projects and updates. And the first thing that popped up was May 23rd of 2017 was the first time she tracked us working on this Norwalk Central project. It was like Holly called Steve Brewer, and then it was Dave Brown told Holly to meet about the Central Park idea with the city. So it's been that long, 5 years. I was thinking 2 or 3, but yes, so we're glad this baby was born. It's on to live there. So, but other than that, after the Norwalk Central project kind of gets underway, the next 2 big things really are going to be North Shore. There's a lot of activity happening out there right now, kind of under the wire, which is super exciting. And then the Southern Industrial Corridor is a big deal for us to work on. Luke, I don't know if you just really quickly want to share that PowerPoint, just that one slide that has the website. There we go. Sorry. It should just be the first page.
The first page.
I think you guys have seen all of these updated renderings, but we can send them to you if you'd like them. So you should be able to click that. Should be live now. So Shelby's been working on this website for a while for us, which is awesome because this is where people can go to get all of the information about Norwalk Central as it develops and as it progresses. She has different pages in there that show the renderings of the city facility and the private facility as that develops, the retail areas and the Main Street components. So this is where we'll put everything that we have so that the public just knows where to go to get all of that information and media and everybody. So she's put a lot of work into that. It looks really good. And she wanted me to remind you guys or tell you guys that our site is way far ahead of even what Waukee is doing on their up and coming city center. Ours looks better. We have more information on there.
All right.
She wanted to put that out. And I guess with that, just thank you so much. And the time frame is purchase agreements for land should close by April 1st, and then they can start moving dirt. So it's real now.
Real.
That's very real.
Cool.
Do you plan on doing websites like this for all of our developments going forward?
The big ones, you know, it would probably make sense to have one for North Shore when that gets moving. And with the industrial area down there, that's a lot of acres. So if we end up having a certified site and then multiple lots, it would probably be good to have one down there as well.
The library is hiring a part-time circulation assistant, and that's posted through March 31st. So thanks to Carrie for helping with that. And just real quickly, we did get the 2 grants that we had applied for. One is for $1,500 from the State Library of Iowa, and we will be doing a space needs study to get some better accurate figures on the size of library space that we should need, as well as some of the dollar figures to go along with that for our future build. And the other grant is $6,500 in an ARPA grant from Warren County. And it is going to allow all of the libraries, all 6 of them in the county, to offer the Adventure Pass program so that we won't have to tell people, no, you're in the wrong library to apply for that. And so the Adventure Pass program allows residents to use their library card to check out a pass to visit the Blank Park Zoo, the Science Center, Des Moines Children's Museum, and Botanic Garden for free once a year. So we're excited to be rolling that out.
Good, that'd be nice.
Okay, so our baseball and softball field rentals moved online this year. In the past, we had taken paper applications, and then Sarah and Adam would spend days, hours, trying to make sure that everybody had the right practice dates and times. It moved online this week, and within the first 15 minutes, we had 73 field reservations. So that's good. We had a total of 25 teams so far this spring, which is the same as we had last spring. So our number of teams is the same. Let's see. Celebrate Earth Day will be April 22nd. We do have sign up on our website. We'll have opportunities for cleanup along Highway 28, tree planting at Pine Needle Park and Elizabeth Holland Park. We already have volunteers from Main Street School. They'll be planting trees and picking up trash at City Park. And Michael Foods is also sending several employees to volunteer at Elizabeth Holland. Let's see, soccer registration has closed. We have a wait list for most age groups. Basketball finishes up this week. We're in desperate need of lifeguards and park maintenance seasonal workers. Just not getting the applications for those two. And then the last thing is, I think on that slide, I don't know that Luke just presented on our building. If people caught that, we are calling our building CORE, which is Center of Recreation Excellence. I think was talk that we were going to call it the Field House, but with Ankeny's new addition of at least 3 complexes in the next 3 years. One of their buildings is the first one, which is supposed to open in October of this year, is called the Field House. So we're not going to call our building that anymore. The Diamond, and then the Coliseum. So we talked to Park and Rec Commission last night and just decided that we were moving to CORE.
Center of what?
Center of Recreation Excellence. Yeah. And that's it.
Thank you. Lindsay?
No, thanks.
Brian?
I just wanted to clarify, I know in the past, sometimes we've taken off for spring break, and I want to know if we're meeting on the 17th.
We
Or
are not,
what?
we are not going to meet on the 17th. We are going to have a meeting on the 24th.
Glad I asked.
Anything else?
No, that should do it.
All right, thanks. Jackie?
So I have a couple things. I am gonna ask that we bring the discussion about UTVs back to agenda sometime in April. I wanna just kind of circle back, have a little discussion about golf carts, which I'm seeing more and more of on the public streets, and what we are or are not doing about those. UTVs and a particular resident's solution to his UTV problem that I'm not certain is actually the solution. I was on the bike trail twice in the last week. It is, of course, marvelous, but full of a lot of hazards. There is tons of rock spray, I assume, from plowing on the trails in a lot of places. Not the whole trail, but certainly limits the usability of the width of the trail in many areas. And I thought that the city adapted the roadway along Beardsley by the trail. I don't know if anybody's adapted on 50th, but those areas are, there's so much crap.
And wasn't that the portion that the city adopted was 50th
We're doing 50th, yeah.
from Beardsley North?
We have a map of that.
Right, so I just happened to notice there are tons, now that the snow's gone, there's really quite a bit of,
The litter cleanup program that the city, kind of the adopt a highway thing, they encourage a spring and a fall cleanup. So we're probably coming up on that date here.
It's required twice a year.
Yep.
so, anyway.
We'll be busy.
Yeah, because you're not busy enough.
I'll stop. Thank you. I do have a few items. The first one is going to go through. Holly and I attended the Builders Luncheon that is hosted by, is it Peoples or Diligent? And Kaylin Ludwig does a good job of going through and assembling information across the metro. So there was 4 slides I pulled out of her presentation that I just thought I'd show you real quick that shows that Norwalk is right there in the mix in the metro. This one shows top cities by units sold. So this isn't necessarily new construction, but it's interesting because that's primarily what we see in Norwalk is new construction. So it's showing us within some of those top level communities. This next one, I'm going to go through a few of these slides. And there was one particular area that I was focusing on when the presentation was happening, and it was final plats and lots developed. They're circled here. So if you look at our number at 13 final plats and lots developed at 531, and then the same slide is going to pop up for several other communities, so you can just compare our numbers to them. 18 at Ankeny at 16 compared to our 13. And lots developed at 706 compared to our 500 plus. Grimes. Wow. West Des Moines. So I thought that those, that was some interesting information. There's a lot of other info in that presentation. And the takeaway is that Norwalk is growing right along at a healthy pace along with the rest of the metro. So it's good for our whole region. Another item, probably not such good news. It depends on where you fall on the issue. I am on the executive committee for the Central Iowa Code Consortium. That's the group that worked on helping us update our building codes. This is a group that reviews all the different building codes, proposes amendments. We recently adopted the 2018 building codes. There was a recent bit of legislation. I want to say it popped up kind of out of the middle of nowhere.
Week and a half ago.
What's that?
Probably like a week and a half ago.
Not very long. And it's a proposal. It's linked in. They take some zoning regulations that came in along with a building code component and threw it in with like a workforce and healthcare employment. It was just a strange mix. The part that affects building codes is it would be the state of Iowa stepping in and saying, cities, you no longer have the ability to adopt building codes. We're going to adopt it for you, and we're rolling you all back to 2015. I had a code consortium meeting today, and we pretty much skipped the bulk of what we tabled 90% of our agenda and just went to this agenda item and said, we just need to wait to see what's going to happen. We have several building officials in the room. We have fire chiefs in the room, city managers. The consensus is that this legislation is likely to pass. So we're doing our best to try and offer up some type of an amendment that would at least give us the authority to work with the state to come up with whatever kind of amendments would go along with those building codes. So that was a little bit startling, passing that along, and we'll keep you updated. The last item, very quickly, Holly and I presented to both the Norwalk Community School District Board. We give them a general update about what's happening in the city. A lot of information that we pulled from some of that metro info. And then also we went and gave that same presentation to Norwalk Rotary, and certainly well received. So thanks for helping me out. Thanks.
It must be the same folks that did the fireworks law that are working on that.
Probably. Yes, I'd say something. The only thing I have is March 12th in here. We'll have community chat on that Saturday morning. So come and join us. We usually don't have very many people here, so. And it's the more the merrier usually. So come on and join us. And that's all I have. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. We're adjourned at 8:19 PM. Thank you.